mind is the battlefield. My response. We are debating details, and though I very much like getting to the details of something, we're arguing between self-same principles. Will it kill one slowly or quickly? However, it has already killed most people's inherent love of general freedom, and now they are averse to even the thought of free thinking. This has been the most devastating casualty of this entire event. Yes, the individual deaths are a tragedy, but to the death toll that shall be wrought from a population of intellectually indolent serfs shall be a death toll greater than all needlecrafts combined. Government is a murder machine, and its favourite prey is the enfeebled kind, and this is what this entire narrative, and all combined narratives in the last century or more, have sought to engender within the populace. Gullibility is dangerous, and this narrative has been the inoculation against critical thinking and personal agency, free of government oversight. And others reply, yes, that's the real work that's being done, the altering of our society and how we operate together within it. This is looking irreversible for many. This whole narrative is a sideshow for the deeper multi-generational effects. My response, exactly. Like all wars and psychological operations that have been played upon us since time immemorial, it is always about seeking incremental change for the strengthening of the ruling class's position. The real casualties are immaterial and mental. The change is not physically destructive, but subversive. The weapons of war are not deadly machines of death, but subtle programs of change. They could end this tomorrow, and it would never be a true victory for us, as they have already achieved the operational goals, to change society and to colonise a little bit more of the free will of man. This is not to sound despondent, but to understand our position and hence where we must go from here. It may be that the deaths were a secondary concern. The primary goal was the breaking of the human spirit, en masse. Another's response. True words spoken. There also seems to be a divine element to this, a manifesting of dark times to recreate light times. A self-correcting process, you could call it. But we must be courteous, not to fall for the revolution. It will be a manufactured one. The only true revolution will be within the hearts and minds of man, which is the great work ahead of us. My response? Yes, there is indeed, and I think the powers that be understand these cycles to a greater extent than us. These cycles stem from the innate psychology of man, of which is a reflection of nature, of that we undeniably share a symbiosis with. Accordingly, cycles of nature mirror our own psychological and, by extension, civilizational cycles. Social constructs are created and maintained by a collective psyche of people that is transmuted into will and thus activity. Thus, entropy eventually destroys this system. They know this and they are attempting to reset the cycle to begin again, but while maintaining their position of dominance over the new civilizations to come. It is self-correcting, the cosmic balance of the womb of existence, the will of nature that all shall be in equilibrium. In all of my years, I have never seen anything outrun the reversion back to the mean, even in the controlled markets. Thus I do not expect these self-obsessed power junkies to do so either. Therefore, there is hope still remaining. I agree, the revolution is in one's mind, spirit and heart. Once we become unconquerable there, we become effective defenders of truth, justice and light. It is not just about deposing corruption in high places, but it is about elevating the spirit and cultivating the mind of man so that we can create a better future, united, once this storm passes. As a final point, tangential in relation to our previous statements, but I thought it salient to include, from a blog on the UK government's statements regarding the house arrest scheme and human farming, as in raising humans for their organs and other organic products, as opposed to solely tax or productive farming. Quote, the above footage emerged around the time opt-out organ harvesting became UK law the 22nd of May 2020, along with the following reassurance from the government from Louise Casey, Baroness and House of Lords member. Quote, "For homeless people, the task was to bring as many as possible in off the streets and out of communal shelters. The goal was to protect rough sleepers from the boogeyman and give them a chance to isolate and ultimately, therefore, do the best we can to save their lives." There was an absolutely extraordinary answer all across the country for everyone to listen to my call to, quote, "get everyone in." The author continues on, quote, "I asked a homeless guy, let's call him Chris, if he had been, quote, brought in, unquote, during the house arrest. Chris said he and his mates had got as far away as they could, apparently fleeing into the countryside. When they came back, he pitched his tent out of sight in woods on the edge of town. At 3 a.m, the police turfed him out. He said, quote, 'Why did it have to be 3 a.m? Why not 6 a.m, unquote?' Robert Jenrick, Secretary for Housing in the UK, provides the answer by stating that the government have made a great deal of strides into ensuring that every homeless individual, everyone, is tracked and accounted for, and their locations are known to the state at any time. Robert Jenrick went on to say rough sleepers will be introduced to the private rental sector. That probably won't turn out well, given the state's own white papers about problems within the private rental sector. In about 2015, UK entities like the Bank of England and think tanks like the Roundtree Foundation were discussing obstacles to the introduction of a UK state digital currency. They wanted transactions to be linked to identifiable individuals, but to do that, all individuals had to be verifiably identified beforehand. One of the obstacles to this was the quote, unaddressed, unquote. On any given night, around 90,000 individuals were visibly sleeping rough. Up to 1.1 million individuals were, quote, unaddressed, unquote. These were identified as couch surfers, workplace sleepers, and caravan sleepers, the invisible homeless. It is conceivable that behind global house arrests freezing of individual movement was an attempt to link various phone hardware and software identifiers, location habits and contact habits to unaddressed individuals on a global scale. Examined in this way, the above clip could be seen as Jenrick admitting that the house arrest scheme had been largely successful in the UK. Although state-banked digital currencies are contentious, questions of the rightness or wrongness of the digital currencies, state-banked digital currencies, central bank fiat creation, etc., become small concerns when considered against the probability that humanity is being farmed and, judging by the experiences of people like Chris, farmed very poorly.